BB851, turn right, heading 180. Order 14 Papa, turn right 245, report localizer established 27.
There's been some exciting and hopeful news surrounding South African Airways that has been a long time coming, specifically a whopping 17 months after they entered this awful position that I'm going to deep dive into in this video. With that being said, for South African Airways, their troubling state has been ongoing for far longer than the 17 months, as they've battled for the past decade a tricky financial position that has seen them teetering on collapse on a consistent basis. Now, according to Reuters, the airline can finally exit bankruptcy protection that was protecting its key assets as it underwent a major overhaul that would allow it to continue flying long into the future and basically protect it, as this all suggests, from collapsing and becoming completely bankrupt. The pandemic was for South African Airways one of the final nails in the coffin that left it no choice but to stay in administration. It was actually, though, placed into administration back in December of 2019. Now, this was just as the pandemic was first beginning, and realistically one of the final months that we experienced of normality. The administrators that have been essentially helping support South African Airways during the past 17 months noted that they had handed the business back over to the carrier, effectively dispatching the business rescue that was originally in place. Questions now will naturally arise over whether or not the carrier will head back into administration in the coming months or years, and even if it will be able to survive on its own in the current market, which, as we know, is unforgiving, not just to the regular airline, but especially to a carrier that is already struggling. But the airline overall will be taking this one day at a time, and be pleased to see this happen for themselves in a very, very difficult 2 years. With that being said, moving forward, the airline will need some form of capital that will ensure the long-term future and, of course, the business be viable overall to continue flying. As naturally, if a business is no longer viable, what is the point in continuing it? You're better off shutting it down than seeing the losses come in on a consistent basis. South African Airways, while can see this as a positive, still have a lot to fix. The airline has not only severely reduced its fleet in the past couple of years, but on top of that, has essentially removed a huge portion of its employees in the past 2 years as well. Its operations now consist of Airbus A319s, A330s and A340s. And the way I say that, it sounds like they have a lot, but actually they have a ground total now of just 12 aircraft, which, might I add, have been parked since last year, as the carrier is simply not flying. There's been calls for the airline to completely be scrapped and for them to basically start afresh without all the losses, and while the government have also looked at options, there's nothing set in stone on that front. Being founded, though, back in 1934, the carrier has a rich history dating back almost a century now, making it one of the oldest carriers still in operations under some capacity. Ultimately, though, they've struggled in the past decade, like I've discussed. Even if the airline does secure the support that is required for it to succeed in the past, it has chewed through the money, which naturally begs the question as to if this time they will change their ways. What's to say after so many other times that anything will change? Could, though, potentially being put in administration aid them further? We'll have to wait and see on that front. But we can hope that the cash injection not only lasts, but propels them into profitability. Geographically, South Africa has struggled on an international market, and there's cause for them to simply stick to regional and domestic operations in the long-term future, as that'll be more sustainable for their overall brand. I'd be interested to hear your take on the positive news that is surrounding South African Airways, but of course there's still the underlying concern, as I've dived into in this video. Until the next one, take care and please be safe.